No Godzilla.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Kaylin Hall. Welcome back for another week of fabulous virtual tastings with us here at the Vineyard Winery. We are starting off this week with our 2017 Jolie rosé, and we've got a fabulous couple of vintages coming up as well later in the week. I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to Dr. Richard Becker, his brother, Robert Becker, and Jon Leahy, our winemaker, to tell you guys a little bit about this blend.
Well, thank you, Kaylin. Thanks for joining us too. You're not going anywhere, are you? And
I plan on running away quickly.
yeah, in case anybody's wondering, Kaylin is joining us in place of Rachel. Rachel has the day off. That's why she's in Rachel's seat by all of the great wine. So, hey, Doc, would you care to lead us into an intro, please, sir?
I just cannot go without saying before each one of these wonderful talks about something as lighthearted as wine, that how aware we are of the crisis in our country. 1/4 of all of the COVID cases on the planet now in the United States, increasing by 1 million new cases every 16 days for the last 32 days. And just all the people that are fighting this fight, I just need to know that all of us salute them, care about them. We'll do anything we can to help them. And if we can distract from the pain with a little bit of wine for a minute, that's the plan.
Absolutely. Well, I will raise my glass to that and kick off this week with a vertical of Jolie. I also want to get Robert involved here. So for those of you who joined us a few weeks back, that wonderful bluegrass, Robert is one of the founding members behind that. His band comes down. You know, it was a treat, Robert, for all of us, first of all. So thank you. And please thank your bandmates again.
We had a great time.
Yeah, we really, really missed the Bluegrass Bluebells and Barbecue event in March and having you guys there. So
we did too. We're hoping 2021 is going to let us come back.
Well, I hope so as well. So I wanted to lead everybody off with a pick up your glass, give it a swirl, a sniff, and a taste. And let's kick this off with the right way. So Robert, about your golf game.
It's fantastic. I think the operative word would be unbelievable. But
Unbelievable.
that cuts a couple different ways, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. So, Robert, we're gonna lead off with you, and then if I did Kaylin disappear on us completely? I think she did. Okay, will you give us your impressions on the nose on this wine, sir?
Well, it's got all those wonderful strawberry kind of peachy notes. It's somehow you manage to have the essence of fruit without turning it into a fruit bomb, which I wouldn't think in a rosé would be anyway. But it's just got nice tannic structures. It's sort of the alcohol, which is I was actually surprised. I went and looked at the bottle. It's over 14, which I thought was pretty interesting. But you know, it's not hot. You don't get any sense of that. It's a really kind of full-bodied sort of rosé, and boy, it's just a treat to drink.
Well, you know, to fair warning, and I know we talked a little bit about it before we went live, but in about 10-15 minutes, I'm going to ask you for a food pairing. So just start thinking in the back of your mind.
You got it.
Something that might go with this wine. I know it's a very narrow window. so Doc, your impression, sir, and then I think we're going to jump into the breakdown on this wonderful wine.
I really like it. You know, again, I'm starting to think we can make wine in Gillespie County. This is just super. And it's what I like about it is the beautiful aromatic strawberry and maybe a little orange zest, and then delicious on the front palate and a wonderful finish after you swallow it. I mean, it's got a lot of the things that make you want to have another sip of it. And you know, I think the technique of Sangre has been incredibly good for us in a bunch of ways. I know you'll talk about that. But,
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and this did have a little direct press as well. So, but the Sangre, which absolutely, I love the fact that some of my fellow winemakers think it's the shortcutting a traditional method, and it's not. It's completely separate than a traditional method, so it's not shortcutting anything. And as far as I'm concerned, a very legitimate method. I love direct pressing red grapes for rosé. You do get some interesting phenolics that way as well. You know, with
John,
this wine, and I think,
can I ask you to define direct pressing?
Absolutely. So a direct press is where we treat the red grape like a white grape. So during crush, there are two basic processes. Red grapes usually come in, destemmed, and go directly whole berry into the tank to ferment. Where white grape comes in, gets destemmed, goes into the press, is pressed, the juice is separated from the solids, then we ferment the juice. So with rosé, it's taking red grapes and treating them like white by pressing them instead of crushing them into a tank. So one, you lighten the color. Two, you grab all the essence, the fruit essence that the berry is, and turn it into a rosé, which can drink both like a red or a white in essence. Just depends on the stylistic choices that a particular winemaker makes along the way, and what that focus of that rosé is. I personally love direct pressing Grenache, Syrah, Cinsault, Mourvedre, the Rhone varietals to make a rosé. You can certainly do it with any red varietal, and I've had some delicious wines done with non-traditional varietals for rosé. You know, like a direct press Cab or Merlot. That for a short period of time, there was a fad for white Merlot, like white Zinfandel, and that brings up white Zinfandel, which usually comes across as sweet, though I've had some really good ones that were dry. So Zin is another red grape that people mostly knew it as a rosé, and they didn't know it was an actual deep red wine for a long time. But anyway.
John,
yeah.
Speaking of Grenache, we just got some beautiful Grenache in from Drew Talent. I know Robert knows Drew Talent. I think Drew's cousin worked with you at the Chicago trip, or do I have that all mixed up?
That's right. And Steve Chapman is still a columnist at the Tribune. Yeah, a very widely respected guy.
So we got beautiful Grenache today from Drew, about 7 tons. John, is that what you told me? And
yep, 7.06 tons. Yeah, the preliminary sugars came in at 24.4. They'll soak up overnight, certainly. pH was 4.0 on the nose. That was beautiful. There was virtually no pink skins, though Grenache is really tricky because in any given cluster, you'll notice some fair colored skins, some lighter skins. It's different than pink skins of underdevelopment. It's just lack of pigment at that point. But yeah, and I saigned the tank. We saigned it out at a fairly high percentage, at about 25 gallons a ton. We saigned that off into a separate tank.
So what 1 ton makes about 170 or 80 gallons?
You can. I generally figure 155 to 165, depending on varietal.
At the end of the day, yeah, but when you start off, you have more. Yeah. So you took 5 gallons out of that per ton. Is that
25?
25. I mean 25. Yeah.
25 gallons of that, and threw it away down the drain.
I'm delighted.
Yes, that's a lie. You put it into a separate tank. So, Robert, you hit upon something that I always find interesting: the alcohol on the bottle. My bottle doesn't have alcohol on it. I turned it upside down looking for that. I just can't figure it out.
I think there's a reason behind that, but go ahead anyway.
So it is 14.2%, and I wanted to mention that because alcohol is very, very necessary as a preservative. And one of the things we were talking about prior to going on air was the fact that this wine has held up so beautifully. One of those reasons, of course, is the alcohol does help preserve fruit and floral characteristics. You know, there is definitive camps that don't believe wine should be over 14% alcohol. They think it should all be lower. And I've heard some pretty interesting arguments for that. And like most things in life, it goes in one ear and out the other. You just have to ask my wife. But this alcohol, it does not come across as hot. And that really, that's what I was expecting with a vintage rosé. I was like, is this going to break down? So Doc, I want to go back to you and get your impressions of your thoughts on why did this rosé last?
And I don't know the answer. I mean, it has to do with the intensity of the fruit and just the way you made the wine, John. But I don't have an answer. I'm surprised.
Well, I was equally surprised. I know we had a fair or a reasonable idea that we were making rosé for at least 2 years. I mean, that was the idea going into it.
Yeah.
But treating this, so I know these varietals, and I'll get to the breakdown in a moment. We did cool ferment them. Everything was fermented under 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So I think that helps too. We really kept a lot of things intact on that. So somebody just asked, how long do you decant the wine on 2017 rosé? So, Doc, did you decant yours before pouring into a glass?
8 minutes, John, and it's
8
critical.
minutes. That's a hell of an investment of time there. Robert, out of the bottle into the glass, or did you decant?
No, of course not. Of course, I used a straw. No, I actually did not decant.
Don't mention the straw.
Right here, baby.
Right. So I actually decanted this because it is a vintage wine, but I personally love wines decanted. So it was only in the decanter about 35, 40 minutes prior to us going. So about 4:45 is when I threw it in the decanter on there.
So John, do American winemakers have use a different process, or do they make rosés in a different using different techniques than our friends in France? And are there market differences?
Yeah, I think so. I think in comparison, especially if you compare to France, we do it correctly.
But we have enough trouble on international front as
guess who's never getting back in the country of France? No, we owe a lot to the folks in Europe, especially between the Spanish and the French. The Italians have had a huge influence too. And in my background from Northern California was all settled by Italian immigrants that started that wine industry. And if you really look at California's wine industry is definitely from our Italian roots. That's where from E&J Gallo all the way down to, Napa Valley, it firmly held its roots from the Italian influence. Now in there is also French and Spanish, certainly. But as far as the French go with rosé specifically, I had a wonderful guy I used to work with, Julien Fayad. He's a winemaker, owns his own brand, everything. And he's a very nice guy, very, very intelligent, knows a ton. His family's been making wine in France for generations. And he is the one who used to just get so upset when I was like, well, Seigneur makes perfectly good rosé, probably better than a direct press. I mean, well, you guys are wasting a lot of Grenache down there. It used to just goad him into an argument. But that being said, the technique about direct pressing really does a different style of rosé right away than Saigneur. They're both great, but then we use both of them here. So we take the advantage of a lot of people going before us for generations and the combined knowledge. And we've been able to take it then into the direction and apply to our American winemaking.
So I've got a couple of stories about tasting rosé in France. One is that our friend Harold Wood's brother has driven all over France, and his secret to finding great wine and great rosé in the Rhone Valley is to see a Frenchman on his bicycle with some empty wine jugs. You just slow down and follow it, and wherever he goes, that's where you buy the rosé.
That's not a leaf bit creepy.
We loved. We were in Provence and driving around, and you would go to, I remember getting gas for the rental car at like a supermarket kind of thing, and people were taking their jerry cans into the store to fill up for with the local plonk, and it was just always fantastic. It just never disappointed.
Yeah, the cooperatives have 3 gasoline pumps on the wall. They have red, white, and rosé. And you weigh your container, and they bring the gasoline pump out and fill it up with rosé, and off you go. Could be good.
That's the best way. Think about all the expense you save on having a bottling line.
label approval. I mean, overall,
Maybe we, Doc, maybe we should buy that old gas station in Stonewall and set it up as wine pumps.
we did. That's our winery, John.
So what are the grapes in the 2017? I don't, they're not on, I don't think I saw them on the listed on the bottle. Tell me about that.
Sure. See, Doc, Robert's doing a much better job of moderating than I ever have. So, Robert, you need to come back on Wednesdays and Fridays. So,
Anytime.
yeah. So the composition of this wine is 37% Merlot, 31% Cabernet. And just for everybody, I am looking down at my cheat sheet right here. So, 15% Malbec and 17% Dolcetto. Now, 75% of this wine came from the High Plains and 25% from Drew Talent's vineyard. So we've got Drew with Malbec and Cabernet in there. Then we also have Jet with Dolcetto, of course, because he's our source of Dolcetto. The Six Hearts, another wonderful couple with their own vineyard. They supplied some of the Cabernet Sauvignon for this. And then the Merlot also from Jet and Ready. So, and then the Canada family, there is a little Canada Cabernet in this rosé, but don't tell Dr. Becker that.
No.
Yeah. So
John, I'll tell you what I think is wonderful about this wine is after you have a mouthful of it and swallow it, the fruit component on the palate that lingers is just could not be better. Maybe it could. Somebody, every estimate might think so.
I always think there's room for improvement, and I have a hard time. I apologize because every time I smell this, I'm like, well, I love the fruit. What is that little note underneath there? Is that a fault? Is there, So I keep digging down a little too deep, probably. And somebody just asked, how do you keep the air off? Well, you go to the AC remote control, Trish, and you turn it down to like 75 or 80. It'll turn right off. I promise. So we do keep this actually with rosé. When it's in the fermenter, we keep it in a reductive state. We keep the air out of there a lot, and then we give it a big burst of air in a racking. So when you first smell the rosés in tank, after I'm done fermenting them, they smell very egg-like. Is that better than saying farty?
Thanks, John. Yeah, appreciate
not a problem. So, but
eggs.
What? Well, it is a technique to bind up some of those the aldehydic bridge on any kind of underdeveloped flavors, and so that's why we do that, because once you hit it with that air and then that first dose of SO2, that small dose at the end, it binds some of the rather bitter components, binds them up, and so it goes completely away. It's basically a hurry up and wait technique on there. So I hope that answers the question on keeping the air off.
Can I ask one more question? I mean,
Yeah,
this wonderful wine is just sort of this combination of all of these, so it's a dizzying combination of grapes. I mean, how did you sort of decide, oh, we need a little bit of this, we need a little Cab, we need a little Merlot, we need a little bit. I mean, that's quite the chemistry puzzle.
It is, and gosh, Robert, if I were less than an honest human being, I'd take full credit for that decision. Outside of, we got any space left in that one Saignée tank? Go ahead and throw it in there. Two of the components we fermented together as Saignée, which were the Cab and the Merlot. The Dolcetto we kept separate, and actually the Dolcetto went into neutral oak as a rosé to ferment. And I believe it was the Malbec that was also separate on that particular year. So, at the end of harvest, I usually have between 6 and 12 Saignée lots, which are all small volume, between 200 and 2,000 gallons. Then direct press lots, of course, are on their own and treated separately as well, if we direct press any, Grenache or Syrah. But these two of these components were already combined. We put them with the other two components and found the blend that worked well for this. So it was part happenstance and part deliberate blending.
Wow. Well, it worked out.
Yeah, well, it did work out. So I want folks that are watching to ask some more questions. And somebody asked rotten egg or egg salad on that. So I'm going to tell you it's H2S. So a little more rotten egg, not so much egg salad. So now I'm starting to get hungry for an egg salad sandwich for some reason. So Robert, I gave you a few minutes. I tried to hold off as long as I could. What about a food pairing? What would you pair with this particular wine?
We have you know, Chicago has so many interesting ethnic communities, and you know, these folks who come to our country and they bring their wonderful food with them. And we have a fairly large Middle Eastern community, and there are tons of places to get, you know, kebabs, baba ganoush, hummus, grilled, you know, eggplant dishes. And I just, you know, I think this would be a wonderful wine with that, you know, any kind of grilled Mediterranean sort of style food. And or tonight, where I'm making, I'm gonna, you know, pan fry some tilapia with some local corn. And if my wife Karen left any of the local peach cobbler, you know, from the weekend for us, we're gonna have some of that too. But I'm not betting on that.
Not betting on it. Well, so, you know, Robert, real quick. So you're talking about a lot of different ethnic foods there. Do you have specifically Tunisian places in Chicago? Like, can you get a good tangine up there? You know,
there was a place on Irving Park that
or Moroccan, I guess, you know, for the tangine.
Specialized in tagine kind of dishes. And actually, I make a chicken tagine with chickpeas and just the wonderful spices of cinnamon and coriander and cumin. It's just that would be a great suggestion.
Yeah. Do you ever use the traditional harissa or even the sumac, the sour sumac that they use in their spice mix?
I have not used that, no.
Okay, because that's what I'm wondering, if with a tangine, if that would go really well with this, and I think it would. But between Tunisia and Morocco, the food there is just that would be incredible. Absolutely. Right. So Doc, sir, what do you think? What would you
I think one night this week, Michael Lockhart and Sean are going to show us how they make their charcuterie tray, which is so good. Everybody that's had it loves it, and I think this is the perfect wine with that. But there must be, you know, a half dozen items on it. John, I know you're very familiar with it, and not the least of which is the truffle honey.
Oh, right. I was just going to say that truffle honey.
And cheese, just fabulous to come.
Yeah, Robert, when you come down, you have to have the truffle honey on some prosciutto with any glass of wine, and it's just absolutely wonderful. So yeah, Chef Michael was actually pre-filming the assembly of the tray. He does a wonderful job, and every time I ask for one, he kind of rolls his eyes again like a little kid asking for more candy. It's like, can we have one? He's just like, why don't you just take this gallon of truffle honey and leave me alone? So somebody just asked Doc, why the name Jolie? Where did it come from, and why did you pick it?
Well, actually, this was Buddy's idea. She said, "Let's. This is nice, right?" And she said, "How do you say nice in French?" And I think Joe said Jolie, and so that's where it came from. And then she also kind of designed the bottle, which I think is very pretty. She gave the rough ideas about how she wanted Jolie written, and Brett did a nice job of putting it together. So
it is. It was a great. I remember the first one that we did, and it was such a departure from our regular labeling. It just really stood out. So, Robert and Doc, somebody just said, one of our longtime listeners just said, after all these weeks of listening, we have scientifically determined all the Becker men sound exactly alike.
That could be. That's right. Our mother couldn't tell who was calling. You know, if I called her, she said, "Is this Robert?" You know, I said, "No, it's the other one."
I have to go back. I have to ask Robert this, since we're talking rosé. Robert, I loved your food pairings, though you had mentioned off air a good bratwurst might not be a bad idea. But what about your mother's and sister Carolyn's recipe for? Are they cherry turnovers or cherry?
So my mother made these wonderful, and they weren't, I mean, in the South there were fried pies, right? But these were baked, and so these were bits of dough that she would fill with fruit, and so she would do whatever the fruit was. So she would do peaches, she would do apricots, she would do cherry, whatever, sort of whatever was at hand. And these were much prized and often fought over treats when they came out of the oven.
Well, I understand that you ate a half a pan of frozen ones without going in the oven.
I don't recall any of that. And as they like to say, if you can't prove it in court, why talk about it?
I don't want to talk about it. So, well, we just heard from another Becker. Andrew, your nephew is on. So hello to Andrew.
A good man.
Hey, Andrew.
So, okay. So back to you, Doc. Any other pairings besides?
I think a lot of the German dishes, that are coming up in October in the Hill Country, but I think this would be great with sausage and sauerkraut, and this would be a wonderful combination with it. I think almost as good. They have in Fredericksburg in October. They bring in kegs of beer from Bavaria, from Munich, and what a treat that is to taste.
Yeah, I think sauerkraut would go very well with this. I really don't think there would be a bad wine. I'm now thinking fish tacos for whatever reason. So
I'm cooking tilapia later on. Hey, John. So what is the optimum temperature to serve this wine at, you think?
Well,
and is there a glass that I've got my cheapo whatevers, but I mean, is there a glass that sort of lands it on the palate and all that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, there certainly is. And Doc, which glass do you have tonight, sir? You have my
favorite.
Okay, yeah. Your favorite. So I've got a very similar one. So I call this the Somm glass, but it really is. Riedel has it listed as something else, but anything that focuses the nose with the really perfumey wine like this is a good idea. Something broad open like that, like a Pinot Noir glass, would not be an ideal choice. Okay. So you want something closer to a Bordeaux, something that focuses on there.
Well, maybe that's a good Christmas gift idea, brother. I mean, if I just saying,
So
you threw them all in the fireplace last Christmas, so
yeah. It says here, so the middle child will be having butter chicken tonight. So your sister's doing butter chicken. Well, Carolyn, I'm sure it'll be great. And now people want a Becker cookbook with some of these family recipes.
That would be good.
Yes.
We could do that. We could do that.
I think we should do that. I think it would be great to have all branches of the Becker family put in some new and old recipes and put together, and then have Michael put in some of his stuff. So
wow, what a great idea.
Yeah. So thank you for the idea out there in Facebook land. So everybody is now wondering which glass, but honestly, I think the Somm glass that we have, which is I think it's the oaked, or no, I can't remember if it's the oaked Chardonnay glass, what they call it. But
I think this is their Oregon Pinot glass.
Oh, the Oregon Pinot. Thank you. Okay,
yeah. The
Oregon Pinot glass, which it really does focus it very, very well. So somebody was mentioning we're doing all three, a vertical of rosés. Yeah, it's a break from what you would normally think a vertical is. But Doc, what do you think? When we approached you, you liked the idea. What struck you about the idea as doing a vertical for rosés?
I think they're also good. I think it would be fun to take, 17 was the remarkable harvest year in Texas when the Hurricane Andrew pushed this big high over West Texas. We got a very slow ripening period, very extended, and we got wonderful richness in the grapes. So I thought it'd be fun to taste that against the 18 and 19, which are also really good in my memory. But no plan beyond that. I thought it'd be fun to sit down and taste all three side by side.
I do too, and I really love doing verticals of things. And someone asked earlier in the broadcast about 10 minutes ago, will all three Jolies have the same makeup, different vintages? And the answer is no. Jolie's makeup changes every year. and so do our other rosés. And you have a schizophrenic winemaker in charge. That's what happens. So,
Russian roulette, yeah.
so, and somebody just asked, what about Colcannon soup or Dublin coddle? And I think you need a pandy mash to go with this rosé. So,
Wow.
you know, and no, to answer another question too, no, this did not see really outside of one varietal. The rest of it did not see any barrel. So mostly stainless steel. So what do you guys think overall? Are you pleased, Robert?
No, I love this wine. I've always loved the rosés that you've made, and Richard and Bunny, and I love the Provençal too. I've got to say, that's always been a favorite. And when the band has come to Texas, this has been the go-to drink during the course of the afternoon, and it's got the right amount of body and just the right amount of structure. It's terrific.
Mm-hmm. So somebody just asked, and Doc, we'll get to your final impressions. Somebody just asked if we want to do all three for vertical on Friday, how do we save each of the other two? I'm going to tell you to freeze them. So put the cork back in your unfinished portion of bottle and put it in the freezer, and then take them out Friday a couple hours before we broadcast. Let them thaw naturally and come up to a servable temperature.
You're not joking? Really? Freeze them?
Yeah, it works very, very well for short-term storage to go back and try. Doc, would you explain the idea behind that and where that developed?
I don't know that I know the chemistry, but I do know that there was a wonderful article, Decanter, last year about this, in which they took, wonderful wine, wonderful Bordeaux and Burgundies that were 30 years old. And they tasted them, put them in the freezer for a week, thawed them out, and tasted them against a new bottle. No difference. So that journal is so fair and honest that then I think Jon has been trying it. Had the same experience.
Oh yeah, I do it almost every week. Yeah, just to try. So, and I did it on, I can't remember. I think it was the Canada Cab when we did the vertical of the cabs. I froze all three and then showed everybody. But it works very, very well. And it is a nice technique too. And I've thrown other stuff in the freezer to hold it for a couple of days, like when I'm in the middle of blending. So I've done that in the back of the house as well. Somebody just asked the difference between the Saunier and the Jolie, since you use Saunier and the Jolie. Well, there's a difference between the varietals that are used in those two. So, and percentages of varietals. So there is a huge difference. And the Jolie does have some direct press where the Saunier will not. So those are two right off the bat. So I do want to remind everybody. Yes, sir.
I want to say one thing. That is that I think the first double gold medal that Jon won when he came to work was a 2012 Provençal, which, my favorite rosé from the south of France is from Bagnols, and they use a combination of Mourvèdre and Cinsault. And Jon made a rosé from those two grapes, and it was spectacular. And what a double gold medal in San Francisco. First of 20 or 25, Josh. Remedy, you want a bunch.
Yeah. Oh, but I could brag if you want me to. I actually
do.
Anyway.
Yeah. That's unbecoming, Robert. It's very crass.
Not in this crowd.
Yeah. Trust me. If you want to know how much I chortle about things, just ask Jody. She has to put up with it. I'm sorry. I won't be drinking your mountain Burgundy anymore.
Is it Hardy?
Well, one of our famous spaghetti incidences of 2002 involved a half-gallon jug of Gallo Mountain Burgundy and an overzealous Jon cooking some tomato sauce. I should say that it had to cook down for quite some time. But
just was thinking about it.
Yeah. But I never got a chance to tell Bob Gallo thanks for the wines. So I hope you all join us on Wednesday. So we're going to be doing the 2018 Jolie this coming Wednesday. So please save the 17, and then we get to the 18, please save it. Somebody asked how long to keep it in the freezer. You can keep it a couple of weeks easily. I've done it before. Beyond that, I don't know. Experiment. But then again, on Friday, we'll be doing the 2019 Jolie. So both the 18 and the 19 are new releases. we have a plan behind that. We'll explain it later, but you will be the first people trying the 19 for sure. We did have it this last weekend at lunch. It worked out beautifully. So remember Food Friday. Why don't you all come up with a nice snack and then tell us about it when you get online with the wine, and I'll read out some of the ideas. So I think we want you to be a little more proactive this Friday. So Doc, any final words before we sign off for the evening, sir?
No, I just think, I think there's a fair amount of evidence that if we would all really mask up, wear masks everywhere, in public places, we'd save 70,000 lives between now and the time that the vaccine arrives. That's just something to think about and drink at those two.
I will. Cheers. And just for those of you say you want to see Jody on camera, I would too. I haven't seen my wife in 20 minutes. No. So, cheers, Doc. Robert, I have to say thank you for joining us again. I always enjoy talking with you, sir. And
my pleasure anytime, and look forward to seeing you soon.
yeah, absolutely. And good luck with that golf game.
Yeah, well, I need it. Thank you.
Exactly. So everybody, cheers. Good health, great wine. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.